All right, let's dive into something that affects pretty much all of us, but that we rarely ever talk about. The secret rulebook that runs your entire work life. We're going to pull back the curtain on the key rules that aren't just for your boss, but are actually there to protect you. So let me ask you this. You signed a contract when you started your job, right? Of course. But do you actually know what's in there? Seriously, beyond the salary and the job title, there's this whole universe of clauses and fine print that spell out your rights. You got to think of it like the official rule book for the game. And knowing the rules, that's step one to winning. So in this explainer, we're going to decode that rulebook together. We'll turn all that dense legal jargon into simple, clear knowledge you can actually use. This is all about giving you the tools to feel confident at work, whether it's your very first day or your last. So let's jump right in.
Here's what we've got on tap. We'll start with the handshake, your contract. Then we'll follow the money and break down your paycheck. After that, it's all about the clock, your hours and overtime. Then we'll cover your right to take a well-deserved break. We'll finish up with what happens when it's time to say goodbye to a job, and finally, a toolkit so you really know your rights. You ready?
Okay, Section 1, the handshake. That piece of paper you sign at the beginning, it's way more than just a formality. It is the bedrock of your entire job. And getting a handle on that fine print before you start, that is absolutely key.
Now here's something you probably never thought about. The law actually sees a difference between temporary and short-term work. So think of it like this. Temporary work is for a surprise project, something unpredictable that pops up. Short-term work is for a planned project, one you know from the start will be done in under 6 months. It seems like a tiny detail, but it can make a big difference in your legal status.
Ah, yes, the dreaded non-compete clause. You've probably heard of this one. It's that part of a contract that tries to stop you from quitting and immediately going to work for a rival. It can sound pretty scary, I know, but here's the good news. The law puts some really strict limits on these things.
Right, so this is super important. A non-compete isn't legit just because it's written down. For it to actually hold up, it has to pass a 3-point check. First, it has to be a totally separate written agreement that both of you sign. Second, the limits have to be reasonable. We're talking no more than 2 years, and the location and the type of work have to be directly related to what you were doing. And third, and honestly, this is the big one,
they have to pay you for it. I mean, how fair is that? If a company wants to bench you and stop you from working elsewhere, they have to compensate you for it. And the law is crystal clear on the minimum. They have to pay you at least 50% of your old average monthly salary for every single month that non-compete is active. If they don't pay up, that clause is totally worthless. Simple as that.
Okay, let's move on to everyone's favorite topic, the money. Your paycheck, right? It's the most tangible reward for all your hard work, so it is vital to know exactly how it's put together and what you're actually owed.
First things first, we need to define regular pay. Because believe it or not, it's not everything you get. The law gets really specific here. Your regular salary, that's the main chunk, but things like a one-off bonus, holiday gifts, travel expenses, even customer tips, legally, those are all separate. And this matters a whole lot, because other things, like your overtime pay, are calculated based only on that regular pay.
And your employer can't just throw a single number at you and call it a day. Transparency is the law. Every single payslip has to clearly show 4 things: your total wage, a full breakdown of all the parts, any deductions they took out, and of course, the final number that hits your bank account. This is your right, so next time you get paid, take a second and check it. All right, moving on to Section 3, the clock. You know the saying, time is money? Well, when it comes to your job, that is literally true. Understanding the rules around your work hours is fundamental to getting paid what you're worth and, maybe having a life outside of work. So, what is overtime really? It's not just that feeling you get when you're working late again. The law has a very precise definition. It's any time you work more than 8 hours in one day, or more than 40 hours in a week. And it's also any work you do on what's supposed to be your official day off.
Now, this is where it gets really interesting, because you actually have a choice here. When you work overtime, you can either get paid for it, at the higher overtime rate, of course, or you can choose to get that time back as leave to use later. But here's the catch. If you take the time off, you have to use it before your leave year is up. If you don't, or if you leave the company, your employer must pay you the overtime wages you were owed in the first place.
Let's talk about our fourth section, the break. We all need to recharge, right? Well, taking time off is not a perk or a luxury. It's your legal right. And the law has some very clear rules to make sure you get that chance to step away and reset.
Your paid vacation time actually grows with you. It's tied to how long you've been at the company. It's kind of like leveling up. After just 6 months, boom, you unlock your first few days. Then at the 1-year mark, you get more. At 2 years, even more. And it just keeps growing the longer you stay. It's basically a reward for your loyalty.
And hey, you shouldn't have to guess or dig through paperwork to figure out how many days you have. The law says that within 30 days of you earning those leave days, your employer has to officially let you know. It's their job to keep you in the loop about your own benefits.
So what happens if you're just too swamped and you don't use all your vacation days? Do they just disappear into thin air? No way, absolutely not. At the end of the year, your boss is legally required to pay you for any days you didn't take. Or if you both agree, you can roll them over to the next year. The bottom line is, your vacation time has real cash value.
Okay, on to our 5th section, the goodbye. Leaving a job can be stressful, whether it's your decision or not, but you should know there are important rules designed to protect you during this transition, especially when things get tough.
Okay, nobody wants to think about this, but it's critical to understand. If you get hurt at work, the law uses 2 different wage calculations. If you're recovering, your company pays you based on your original wage, basically what you were making right before the accident. But if something more serious happens, like a permanent disability or worse, any big lump sum payment is calculated using your average wage from the past 6 months. Knowing that difference is absolutely vital for making sure you or your family get fair compensation.
And that brings us to our final and maybe most important section, know your rights. We've talked about a lot. Contracts, pay, time off. Now let's boil it all down into a simple, powerful toolkit that you can carry with you every single day.
So look, the main takeaway here is to be your own advocate. Always read your contract. Give your pay slip a quick check every month, know the rules for overtime and vacation pay, and here are 2 other huge ones. If you work for a company with 30 or more people, they legally have to post the official work rules somewhere. And most importantly of all, if you ever feel like your rights are being ignored, you always have the right to file an official complaint. Remember, knowledge is your best defense.
And that's a wrap on the secret rules of your job. These aren't just dusty old laws, they are real practical tools that affect your daily life. So I'll just leave you with this one question to think about. Now that you know the rules, what's one thing you'll look at differently the next time you get paid?